Good morning, all. Hope everyone's having a beautiful day, beautiful start to their day. It's time to walk Sadie. Sadie? Sadie, are you excited? Are you excited, Sadie? So that walk was nice. Um, Waiting for her husband to get home, and we're going to talk to you guys shortly about his urology appointment. Okay, see you soon.
So, my sister-in-law got married, and we just got back from Cape Cod. I drove the whole way, did all the driving. It was an experience, especially getting the car from the airport. On the way to go get the car, we walk over to the spot that's listed on the little rental car piece of paper, and it says the space, and I go to the space and there's no car. So this guy drives up, parks a car in that space, and I'm like, is this the car? This doesn't look like the car that I ordered. And he's like, no, you gotta go back. You gotta go get another one. Someone took your car. I'm like, what do you mean someone took my car? I don't know, not me. Go, yeah, you go. You weren't fast enough. You gotta. And I was like, I wasn't fast enough. I wasn't told there was a race. So I go back, and they're like, you don't need to wait in line. You don't need to wait in line. So I'm like, okay, I don't wait in line. I walk up. The guy that got me the car was gone. So someone else had to help me. And then they're like, oh, yeah, you didn't get there in time. You got to be fast. And I'm like, what do you mean you got to be fast? You're renting a car. I paid for a specific car. You give me the car, and then I go to pick it up, and it's not there because everybody's giving cars out to whoever, and whoever gets there first. So I'm like, whatever, fine. I'll go and get the car. And so I hustle. I'm like power walking. I see my mother-in-law going to the bathroom for the 15th time, and I'm like, whatever, I'm not dealing with that. So I walk. so I walk to the spot, and I'm power walking. I'm not that fast, but I'm probably faster than if someone was just about to get that car and then meet me on the way there. I was probably faster than them. And as I get there, I stop. The car is full of people and it's driving off. My car that I was supposed to get is driving off. So I'm hysterical at this point. They did it again. so so I'm ridiculously upset at this point. And so there was a guy that worked there that I was like, hey, he took my car. There's the same guy that was like, go to the front. And I was like, they did it again. He's like, oh, they did? Oh. Okay, well, go, let me help you. And then he goes and he gets, picks a car for me. So I'm like, all right, he picked the car. I'm out. I just get in the car. We go, he gets me the car. And then I'm like, all right, let's go. So I force everybody to just throw their stuff in the trunk, get in the car, and I just take off. And yeah, so then we get in the car and then we drive down the 93, which, if anybody's watching this that's from Boston or been to Boston, knows that the 93 at 4 o'clock on a Friday is a great time. Such a good time. Like, I had the best of time. It reminded me of home. It was like I was in LA. It's like I was driving on the 405 again. It was fantastic. It was wonderful, except I was underground and nobody knew how to drive in Boston because, and I'm saying that not truthfully, I'm exaggerating, but because when I drove to get to the 93, I'm used to streets that are, they have lines that determine which side is the which side, and crossings that have clearly labeled, traffic markers and stuff. But none of that exists in Boston. It's all one-way streets with two-way stops, three-way stops, four-way stops, and crazy amount of yielding, um, and people everywhere, and not a single, like, once you get out of the airport, there's like all industrial area. It's all like, there's barely, unless you go to a specific area, it's like all industrial. So it's like there's no signs. It's just streets, and you've got to navigate your way to the 93. And maybe that's just because of the GPS system I used, and maybe it's actually fantastic. And maybe there's a golden path that leads out of the airport, and I just missed it, and I just went down this terrible side street to avoid the traffic because I was using an app that avoids traffic. So maybe I'm being too hard on Boston, but it was beautiful, and it's Lauren's favorite place. Don't know why. Just kidding. I do know why. It's beautiful. Um, so I didn't really get to see much, but the things I did see is some pretty awesome buildings. Anyways, so fast forward, we're driving. My wife, Lauren, is yelling at me on the phone. Just kidding. My wife. So okay. So as we're leaving the airport to head on that wonderful 93 that we talked about, I'm trying to talk to my wife about, okay, where are we going? And there's this huge kerfuffle, and after dealing with what I just dealt with, it was not a good time. After we got out of all the traffic on the 93 and started getting on the road, oh, people are crazy. So like in LA, people do crazy things. But in Boston, people do insane things. Like there's a whole shoulder, and we're all going the speed limit or higher, 60, 70. There's two lanes, and then there's just a random person, or you think it's random, but there's like 7 cars in a row that are speeding, going like 80 miles an hour down the shoulder, which isn't even a lane, and there's like 7 people behind him just zooming by in this shoulder, and then it like drastically ends, and then they slam on their brakes. Then all of a sudden there's traffic because of these people. Lauren and I met up. We were like, oh hey, yeah, thanks, let's go. So then we get to the welcome party without incident, thankfully, and I'm starving. So the first thing I do is eat like 17 of these little, obviously 17 of these little pretzel bread things that were delicious. And then Lauren and all of her family's there, and thankfully I'm pretty good friends with most of her family now, so I got to meet up with them and talk to them and spend some time with them, and it was a good time. I got to have some private time with my grandma and my uncles and all that stuff from Lauren's side of the family. So I was hanging out with my sister-in-law's future husband, and her future husband's family was there, and there's a couple of kids I played with, my sister-in-law, my nephew's kid, and they had a good time. Didn't really see much of them because they were off having fun, and it was great. And we got to hang out. I got to visit with the family and meet a whole bunch of different family members, including a couple of the groom's friends, and they're all really cool people. And then, I'd been up for, at this point, I think at least 24 hours. And then we left, and then we went to go to sleep, and we had to drive about 20 minutes, 30 minutes from, Falmouth? From the city of Falmouth all the way to the ocean, basically, is where we stayed, which was really nice. So yeah, and then the wedding was the next day, so we got to sleep in. Well, I got to sleep in. We got coffee for all the girls in the morning and the groom. It was a good time. Then we went to the wedding, and we ate and drank and had a beautiful ceremony, and it was wonderful. Lauren and I had a great time. We did a bunch of dancing. We were like, no, DJ, don't stop. Let's keep dancing. Um, and yeah, and then we all headed off back to bed and had a wonderful time in the morning again. Got to lazily get up, slept in, and then went on our way. Uh, spent the afternoon in Falmouth, looking at touristy stuff. We wanted to eat, but instead we didn't have enough time, so we just picked up fast food on the way. And then we got to the airport again to return the car. Thankfully, returning the car was easy. Just pretty much parked and they gave me a receipt, so that was nice. We get to the bus, we get on the plane, fly on the plane, got to watch a couple of movies, got to sit with my wife for the first time in forever on a plane. Actually, the first time ever. So this was our first flight together, and it was coming back from Boston to LA. And the flight was interesting. It was a little bit of I'm gonna die on the flight. Thankfully, everybody kept their calm. But there was a point where the captain was like, all right, we're discontinuing all in-flight service. Everybody hold on. We're all going to die. No, he didn't say that. But it's basically a super, super bumpy, super, super rough flight in the middle of the country for whatever reason. Turbulence and all that jazz. And then we got to LA. And then for the first time, I've flown a bunch. For the first time in a while, I felt turbulence coming into LA, which was not as scary as earlier, but it was pretty scary. But, I love flying, so I'm not deterred. But it was great because my sister-in-law and mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, it was like her second time flying, first time being the way there. The way there was fine. There was a little bit of turbulence, but that wasn't much. But on the way back, it was like horrifying. So like, I have a feeling that she's never ever gonna want to go on a plane again. But her son was like, "Oh, this is great. This is entertaining. I all thought we were gonna die," but that's not what happened. So yeah. So then we landed. We got our car. Did the charade of dropping everybody off and going home. Then we got home to see our pups again. It was nice to be back home after a couple days. For Lauren, it was much longer, so I'm sure she was a lot happier to be home. The dogs missed her. I mean, they were howling every night. Because they're dogs and they love their mom. Shortly after we got back, I had my urologist appointment. And he started with questions. Like, he asked me about if I had mumps or testicular torsion or any other thing. I did have a case of epididymitis when I was in like 2011, so... But they checked it out with an ultrasound and everything was fine. They sent me home. They didn't say anything about it afterwards. I didn't have any follow-ups, so that was fine. So then the examinations part started. He examined. He found, I guess, I have a cyst on one of my testicles, which he says may or may not cause infertility. It's not really known until they do like a biopsy, but he wasn't really concerned about it. He said that my vas deferens are fine. They're spongy. I don't have any of those varicose or varicosy veins, which is like the leading cause of male infertility and cause of like things like azoospermia. So he said basically everything kind of checked out. So he ordered some hormone tests and some other tests that RE recommended that we get, as well as another sperm test, because like I said in the previous video, it takes two sperm tests. It takes two sperm tests to diagnose azoospermia. So yeah, the first one came up as azoospermia, and then so we ordered a second one to confirm it or not. So he finishes the examination. I pull up my pants, and then he's like, "All right, you've got your vas deferens and all that, so you're good to go." Or we showed him the tests that we needed to order, and he's like, "Okay, go ahead and let's do this in my office." So we go to his office, and he orders all the tests. I give him the list of the tests that the reproductive endocrinologist had asked for, and so he goes ahead and he orders all those tests along with the sperm test. Um, and he asked me if I have any questions, and I was like, "All right, well, one major question I have is, how often is like azoospermia usually azoospermia?" And he goes into detail. He's like, "Well, they take multiple samples, and like it's pretty thorough. If you don't have any sperm, like low sperm count is easily visible because you can see like one or two sperm, or I forget the way he explained it, but he basically said that no sperm is obvious because they sample multiple sections, and if none of the sections have any sperm whatsoever, then it's pretty obvious that it's azoospermia, and it's most of the time always azoospermia, unless there was a clerical error of some kind. Um, which, if there's a clerical error of some kind, then the chance goes up, which we talked about in my previous video, where I said that the lab technicians could have potentially messed up, so it may not be true. But either way, we don't know, not until after we do another test. If it is azoospermia, it most likely is azoospermia. There's very low chance that it's not azoospermia. And then I asked, okay, well, then what are our options? And he's like, or I think he just went into detail, and then your only option is IVF, basically. And hopefully there's sperm in there. But in between, we do like a biopsy to make sure that there is sperm, and if there's anything wrong with the testicle or anything wrong with your hormones, then there's other steps that we can do. So we leave. He didn't sugarcoat anything. It sounded like, he talked about how, as a species, like humanity itself, sperm numbers have been going down since like the 50s. So it's been like a huge potential epidemic that fertility is on a steady decline. And even himself having going for like his third or fourth or second child, I forget which number, it was really difficult. And that, nobody really knows what's going on with male infertility, really. So it's a lot harder to diagnose and treat because it's so new, and maybe not necessarily new, but it's the causes haven't been found yet. They've done a lot more research on women infertility than men infertility for whatever reason. But he was just a great guy, and he talked a lot about being supportive and straight. Like, he didn't sugarcoat anything, and he just said, this is how it's going to be, and this is how we're going to do this, and that's that. So then we go into the nurse's station, and they give me a flu shot. Woohoo! So then we leave to go get blood. Takes a little bit. We read some books on Lauren's Kindle. We get the blood taken. It hurt for once. Like, usually blood getting taken doesn't hurt, but they're kind of rough. And then sometime soon I'll spank it into a cup again, dare I say. A repeat of before. And then they'll get those results back. And then based on that, we'll have a telephone call with the doctor, and Lauren will have her test thingy, the Roto-Rooter Inky Blot test. And then after we do the Roto-Rooter and spank it to the cup, and we get all these results back and have the telephone conversation with the urologist, then we meet with RE. And then you'll probably see another video about that. So thanks for watching. Any of the technical terms, we'll try to put words and maybe links to all the different technical terms in the description of the video, so you can read or do a little bit of light reading about all the wonderful things that your friends Ben and Lauren are up to. And you can also, if you have any questions or you want to contact us, we're going to have those links in the description as well. And if you yourself have gone through this and you know what's next, or you know any of the details, or you want to talk about it, feel free to reach out to us as well. And with that said, we'll see you soon. Bye.